Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 376, Solid as a Soul Rock. The episode begins with a shot of the outside of the Mozdeep's gym, which was shaped like a dome, and we then see the inside of the gym that has many planets hanging from the ceiling. Not real planets, obviously, but little models to demonstrate how this gym was based off a space-like atmosphere. And we then see the battlefield below, where Ash had taken one side, and Tate and Liza had taken the other, while Rachel, Tate and Liza's mother, was in the middle of the stadium, because we were about to get into the gym battle between Ash versus Tate and Liza, and Rachel was going to be the referee. And of course, the referee's job was to explain the rules of the match. So while Ash prepared mentally, Rachel did this, officially declaring the battle as a double battle. And Rachel also explained that Tate and Liza would use Soul Rock and Lunatone and could only use the air, whereas Ash could use the entire ground of the battlefield if he so desired. And Rachel also clarified that all of the planets that were in the air of the battlefield would serve as obstacles that the Pokemon would have to dodge, on top of dodging each other's attacks. May, Brock, and Max examined the battlefield from the stands, commenting on its space theme, as well as how all these planets as obstacles could affect the battle, and stated their belief that this would be a tough battle for Ash, since Tate and Liza knew the obstacles quite well, since they battled in the gym all the time, and they could use this against Ash. And Brock stated that if Ash wanted to stand a chance against both Soul Rock and Lunatone, he would have to choose a pair of Pokemon that would make good combination attacks together, so that they could team up on Soul Rock and Lunatone at the same time. Otherwise, Tate and Liza could obviously win, since they already had the field to their advantage. Ash looked down at the moon-like surface of the battlefield while he tried to think of a strategy, and eventually decided that for his first Pokemon, or at least half of his duo, he was going to send out Pikachu, and Pikachu promptly leaped off his shoulder and onto the battlefield. And Ash then looked towards the ceiling and wondered what Pokemon he could use to take advantage of the floating obstacle planets. Basically, he was planning to have a Pokemon bounce off of them to try and get some good hits in on Soul Rock and Lunatone, and after thinking for a bit, he decided to send out Swellow, and as soon as Swellow came out, it was very ready for battle, alongside Pikachu, as the two of them smiled. Tate and Liza then officially send out their Soul Rock and Lunatone, and Soul Rock and Lunatone stare Pikachu and Swellow down, as Rachel officially declares that it was time for the battle to begin. But before we could actually see the battle begin, we see Ash and Tate and Liza stare each other down, but the battle still doesn't begin, as we then cut to Team Rocket outside the gym, although they were approaching it. Meowth was feeling a bit lazy today, so he was having Jesse and James carry him, and they didn't mind because they were in a good mood, hyped to steal Soul Rock and Lunatone from Tate and Liza, confident that they could do so, since Tate and Liza were so young, and they thought they would have the advantage because of this. Meowth then begins to have a boss fantasy, as he explains that Soul Rock and Lunatone would be the perfect gift for Giovanni, and the boss fantasy went as follows. A sad Giovanni was curled in the fetal position in the corner of a dark back alley, when suddenly, light shined over him, seemingly out of nowhere, and he looked up to see Soul Rock and Lunatone, and Meowth explained that the bright light would cheer up Giovanni when he was sad. Even if he wasn't in a dark alley, just whenever he was sad, the bright light could cheer him up, and maybe even make him dance a happy jig, and he imagined Giovanni dancing in a top hat and nice blue suit, dancing all night long around the beautiful city, and still under Soul Rock and Lunatone's light. Team Rocket happily cheered at this, excited to catch Soul Rock and Lunatone, and Jesse and Meowth started to storm off and rush towards the gym, with Meowth jumping from Jesse and James' shoulders. Although, for some reason, James wasn't coming with Jesse and Meowth, and because of this, Jesse and Meowth didn't run very far before James yelled at them, and stated that Soul Rock and Lunatone were strong psychic types, so they would actually be very difficult to catch, reminding Jesse and Meowth about how fucked up they got by psychic attacks last episode, and stated that the only way they could potentially actually catch Soul Rock and Lunatone was if they had a plan. Jesse was startled by James yelling, realizing that James was probably right, and remembered that they didn't have a plan, so she started to panic, but Meow simply told the two of them not to worry, as he apparently had a foolproof plan that was almost guaranteed to work, revealing that this plan was simply him buying the perfect mech to steal Psychic-type Pokemon from an online auction. Meanwhile, the gym battle had begun at the Mozdeep gym, and Tate told the Soul Rock to tackle Pikachu. And before Pikachu could do anything, the Soul Rock crashed into it and sent it flying. Lunatone then tried to tackle Swellow, but Swellow flew up to try and dodge. But Lunatone simply flies up as well, and manages to hit Swellow with Tackle, knocking Swellow back as well. Ash then tells Pikachu to use Quick Attack on Soul Rock, and tells Swellow to use Peck on Lunatone. Although, right as Pikachu was leaping into the air, speeding towards Soul Rock to Quick Attack it, Soul Rock quickly moved out of the way, causing Pikachu to freak out as it crashed right into the Mars obstacle. The same thing happens to Swellow, as when it went to go peck Lunatone, Lunatone moved out of the way, and this caused Swellow to go crashing into the Jupiter obstacle, getting its beak stuck in it for a bit. Pikachu was flattened out after crashing into the Mars obstacle, and it landed on the ground, getting back to its regular size, although it was extremely tired as soon as it landed. Thankfully, though, it was able to recover, ready for more. That was until an injured Swellow crashed right on top of it, after getting its beak just barely unstuck from the Jupiter obstacle. Ash was beginning to get a little worried at this point, seeing that his Pokemon were injured, and Liza and Tate took this opportunity of Swellow and Pikachu being injured to finish them off with an Ice Beam from Lunatone and a Solar Beam from Soul Rock. So the two attacks were launched at Swellow and Pikachu, and Brock, Max, May, and Ash all watched hopelessly, thinking that the battle may have already been over. But just then, the Ice Beam and Solar Beam happened to collide in a big splash of light, and they both disappear. Ash, as well as Swellow and Pikachu, were kind of confused by this, Barely understanding what happened, with Max stating from the stands that Tate and Liza really made a big mistake, and Brock agreed with this, stating that the cool ice attack and the hot solar beam attack canceled each other out, and Brock remarked that Ash was very lucky to have had the attacks cancel, because otherwise they would have done plenty of damage, and May and Max agreed with this. As for Tate and Liza, they started to argue so much that they forgot that Solrock and Lunatone were still on the battlefield and battling, and arguing about how it was both their fault for this little blunder. Basically, Tate was blaming Liza for interfering with his Solrock's attack, while Liza was blaming Tate for his Solrock interfering with her Lunatone's attack. Brock noticed this fighting and noted that Ash had a chance since Tate and Liza seemed distracted. May was kind of surprised to see Tate and Liza fighting, but Max reminded May that it was totally normal. It was clear that the siblings had beef as of last episode, so she shouldn't have been surprised. Ash then realizes that Tate and Liza were distracted, so he too saw that he finally had a chance to attack and told Swallow to use Aerial Ace on Lunatone, and it hit it hard. While Lunatone just reacted in confusion because it didn't know what the fuck was going on because it was so distracted as well by Tate and Liza yelling. Ash doesn't stop there though, as he has Pikachu use Iron Tail on Solrock, and it deals major damage. This attack finally made Tate and Liza snap back into reality though, as they realized that while they were fighting, Solrock and Lunatone were getting their asses beaten, so they quickly regained focus on the match and ordered both their Pokemon to use Tackle on Pikachu at the same time, leaving Pikachu to almost be sandwiched by both the Pokemon as they came at him from opposite directions, trying to corner him basically. But at the last second, just as Ash was calling for Pikachu to try and find some way to escape the attack, as Pikachu just stood there frightened, Swallow swooped down and grabbed Pikachu in its wings. This in turn causes Lunatone and Solrock to collide into each other and collapse to the ground, almost fucking knocked out from their hard impact. Basically, they were going for Pikachu, right? But now Pikachu wasn't there, so they had no one to hit but each other. And seeing how injured their Pokemon were, Tate and Liza started to argue again, blaming each other for each other's Pokemon crashing into the other one. And they also argued about what was most important for their battle strategy, with Tate claiming that their angle was most important, but Liza claimed that timing was most important, leading Max to observe that he and May were like best friends compared to Tate and Liza. And May stated that having two gym leaders seemed like a bad idea, since it seemed as though Tate and Liza couldn't properly coordinate how they wanted to approach a battle. Brock simply stated that Ash definitely had way more of a chance than he ever had before. He didn't even have to wait for one anymore. He could just attack whenever the fuck he wanted. As for Rachel, she was embarrassed by her children's arguing. Ash was actually glad for the arguing though, as it gave him another chance to take out Solrock and Lunatone. So he was about to order Pikachu and Swallow to attack them, but just then, Ash could feel the gym floor beginning to rumble. And then a large crack appears in the ceiling, making everyone gasp in shock as Jesse and James come floating down the now hole in the ceiling. And Team Rocket instantly did their motto while floating down on a moon obstacle and a sun obstacle that they had made themselves, with Jesse coming down first on the moon obstacle and then James coming down last on the sun obstacle. With both of these obstacles being designed to look happy, even though they shouldn't have been happy, because Team Rocket's motto was worse than usual, being in the form of a space opera for a bit. As Ash and Gang made fun of the costumes that Team Rocket was wearing, Meowth then delivered the true conclusion to the motto when he destroyed the roof of the gym even more than when Jesse and James first entered, using a large human-like robot. Because of the roof being destroyed, debris goes everywhere, and this ends up messing up the actual battlefield and destroying some of the planet obstacles as well. Jesse and James then hopped back in the robot with Meowth and made a big speech about how they were going to steal Solrock and Lunatone for real this time. And Meowth confirmed this as well, as he bragged about how awesome his new robot was that he bought. But Jesse and James simply tell Meowth to quit glazing himself up and focus on the task at hand, which was to capture Solrock and Lunatone. Ash then yelled at Team Rocket, begging them to just get the fuck out of the gym so he could continue his gym battle, talking about how important it was. And Tate and Liza argued with Team Rocket, telling them to stop fucking ruining the interior of their gym. But when Team Rocket still refused to leave, Liza and Tate just sent Lunatone and Solrock to go attack Team Rocket's robot. Although, Jesse and James just laughed at how easy the two twins were making stealing Solrock and Lunatone, and Meowth agreed with this and pushed a red button inside the robot, which caused a hand to come out of the robot and go down into the remains of the roof to snatch Solrock and Lunatone. Liza and Tate were confident that a mere hand couldn't capture their Pokemon, though the hand then opened up to reveal two round cages inside, and Meowth then presses another button to launch the two round cages from the robot's hand and towards Solrock and Lunatone, and easily captures the two of them. Shocking Ash and the gang, Tate, Liza, and Rachel. Tate and Liza simply told Lunatone and Solrock to free themselves from the cages by using a psychic, but since the cages were made out of titanium, they reflected the psychics back at Solrock and Lunatone, injuring them, leaving Meowth to laugh as he reveals that he made the cages out of not only titanium, but a stronger version of titanium actually, known as unobtainium. In turn, revealing to Jesse and James that he bought the mech and it was pretty normal, but then he upgraded it to make it specifically good to capture psychic Pokemon, since the unobtainium was especially good at absorbing psychic attacks and abilities. Then Meowth presses a button to retract the cages back into the hand of the robot and brings the hand of the robot back down, and Team Rocket then begins to run away from the gym as Jesse, James, and Meowth cheer, happy that they had actually stolen Solrock and Lunatone and they were actually escaping, and they knew that they should be able to escape since their Meowth balloon was just on the edge of a nearby cliff. They just had to get to it. As the mech makes its way away from the gym though, Ash and the gang, Tate, Liza, and Rachel give chase. Along the way, Tate and Liza start to blame each other, arguing about whose fault it was that Team Rocket had stolen their Pokemon, but they quickly stop as they realize that now wasn't the time. Eventually, Team Rocket and the robot managed to outrun Ash and the gang, Tate, Liza, and Rachel, and they make it to the edge of the cliff where the Meowth balloon was waiting, already in the air. So all Meowth had to do was activate a button in the mech, and this caused a claw to come down from the Meowth balloon basket. Yeah, that's right, he had something in the mech already programmed with the Meowth balloon. Damn. And the claw that came down from the Meowth balloon basket wrapped around the mech's waist, and therefore, since the button press also caused the Meowth balloon to start moving, the Meowth balloon floated in the sky, dragging Team Rocket and their robot with it. Just then, though, Ash and the gang, Tate, Liza, and Rachel show up, and Ash tells Pikachu to use Thunderbolt on the Meowth balloon by going right to the cliff's edge to try and bring the Meowth balloon down. But unfortunately, the Meowth balloon was too far away at this point, and it didn't make contact, leaving Team Rocket to laugh hysterically and even cry, excited that they were finally going to get away with steal for once. And Meowth proceeded to taunt Ash and the gang about how they had finally won, which made Ash extremely pissed off. And Ash gets even more angry when Meowth makes a taunting face towards him. So he decided to get revenge by having Team Rocket downed from the Meowth balloon, as they always were, ordering Swellow to let Pikachu ride it and then go after the balloon. So Swellow swooped down and Pikachu jumped onto its back, and Swellow started to fly towards the Meowth balloon, and more particularly Team Rocket's mech, which was being carried by it. Jesse and James get worried upon seeing Pikachu and Swellow approach, yelling at Meowth, assuming that he hadn't prepared for such an attack that was coming from Swellow and Pikachu, although Meowth reassured them that he did have a perfect way to get rid of Swellow and Pikachu, which was a putty launcher, which he had hooked up to the mouth of the mech. So he pressed a button to activate it, and the mech started to spit barrages of putty towards Pikachu and Swellow. Swellow sees the yellow putty balls approaching it, however, and it easily manages to dodge all of them. Tate and Liza then give advice to Ash, and he listens intently, hoping that they knew what they were talking about, as Tate and Liza advise Ash to have Pikachu use Thunderbolt on the robot, since Lunatone and Solrock were protected in the cages, so Ash didn't have to hold back at all and worry about hurting them. So Ash had Pikachu use Thunderbolt once Swellow was close enough to Team Rocket's mech, having Pikachu jump off of Swellow to use it so that Pikachu didn't risk injuring Swellow. And this caused the Meowth balloon and the mech to become enveloped in electricity, and the controls of the mech started to smoke and become fried. James questioned if Meowth had any more tricks up his sleeve, but Meowth worriedly admitted that he didn't have any more plans left, as the electricity short-circuits the mech, causing the hand to open, and therefore the two cages with Solrock and Lunatone were released, although since the cages were connected to the controls as well, the cages broke open, so Solrock and Lunatone were free and flew back down to Tate and Liza. Jesse and James start to scold Meowth for not coming prepared and letting Solrock and Lunatone go free, leaving Meowth to apologize to them, stating that he only got the economy package for the mech, not the most rich one that would have come with better protection. Tate and Liza then thank Ash for saving Solrock and Lunatone, and the two twins realize that they were going to have to work together without arguing, and put aside their differences for the time being in order to focus on getting rid of Team Rocket. So Tate and Liza agreed to work together, as they both ordered their Pokemon to use Psychic at the same time. So Solrock and Lunatone start up the attack and begin to physically constrict the mech, crushing it into a ball of metal, with Team Rocket squished inside, as the mech then explodes, causing Team Rocket to go blasting off, along with Wobbuffet, who forcefully popped out of its Pokeball. Ash and again, Liza, Tate, and Rachel cheered at first at the fact that Team Rocket was gone, but Ash then got sad as he realized that the gym was now completely destroyed pretty much, and apologized to Rachel, Liza, and Tate for allowing Team Rocket to destroy the gym. Liza assured Ash that it wasn't his fault by any means, but did admit that, unfortunately, the gym battle didn't seem like it could go on, since the gym was gone, and the only way the battle could continue was if they battled somewhere else, and Ash knew this, which was another reason why he was sad. However, much to Ash's delight, and Tate and Liza's, because they wanted to see this battle through as well, Rachel just suggested that they have the battle outside on the cliff that Team Rocket took off from. They didn't even need the gym, and everyone agreed to this, with Ash just excited to battle, period, and Tate and Liza excited as well, since they could still battle, even if they didn't have a arena that they were accustomed to, such as the one in their gym. So with that, it was time for the battle to resume where it left off. Though not before Rachel cleared some excess dust off the field, and Tate and Liza got on one side, and Ash got on the other, and they stared each other down for a bit, along with their Pokemon staring each other down, and then Rachel officially declared that it was time for the battle to continue. So Ash started by having Pikachu use Thunderbolt on Solrock, although Liza quickly came up with a strategy, having Lunatone create a light screen and going in front of Solrock, causing the Thunderbolt to be directed back directly at Pikachu, which causes Pikachu to go flying into the cliffside, shocking Ash, as that cliffside was pretty sharp and rocky. With Pikachu injured, Ash focuses on Swellow, telling it to use Aerial Ace on Lunatone, but much like how Lunatone protected Solrock, Solrock now protects Lunatone, using a Sandstorm to wound Swellow, blowing it back and preventing it from landing the Aerial Ace. May and Max were shocked how Tate and Liza were suddenly fighting way better, with Brock explaining that they were fighting better since they were now working side by side and in sync with the right attack combinations. May and Max questioned how Tate and Liza were suddenly in sync, with Brock suggesting that it was likely after their battle with Team Rocket where they worked together, and realized that them working together was the best way to win. Ash had noticed that Tate and Liza were now working together, using combination attacks as well. So when Tate and Liza told Ash to just give up since he would never be able to beat their awesome combinations, Ash simply stated that he could counter Tate and Liza's combinations with a good combination of his own, and ordered Pikachu to get back onto Swellow's back. So Swellow flies down to Pikachu, and Pikachu gets up from the cliffside that it crashed into, and jumps onto Swellow's back. Tate and Liza observed Swellow and Pikachu coming towards Solrock and Lunatone and knew that Ash would likely go for an electric attack. And sure enough, Ash had Pikachu launch a Thunderbolt straight towards Lunatone and Solrock, though Lunatone simply just blocked the attack with a light screen, deflecting it back onto Swellow and Pikachu, hitting them as opposed to Solrock or Lunatone. Max, Brock, and May were impressed with Tate and Liza's reflect strategy, with Max suggesting that Tate and Liza must have predicted that Ash would have used a Thunderbolt, while May started to fear that maybe this battle was unfair, since Tate and Liza were now working together in sync, and Ash only had himself. And May also worried, along with Brock and Max, that Ash was now fucked, since Swellow was weak to Pikachu's attacks, and thought that maybe Ash shouldn't have sent Pikachu and Swellow in together, knowing that Lunatone and Solrock could use these psychic attacks that could potentially make Pikachu damage Swellow. Anyways, the Thunderbolt that was still hitting Swellow and Pikachu finally came to an end, and surprisingly, for Tate and Liza, both Pokemon looked almost completely unharmed and ready for more battle. Brock, Max, and May were also shocked that Swellow and Pikachu had survived the attack, as Ash congratulated Swellow and Pikachu for doing so, and Tate and Liza complimented Ash on raising very fine Pokemon for being able to withstand an attack like that, and Ash thanked them for the compliment, and then had Swellow use Double Team, surrounding Lunatone and Solrock, who were now in the middle and being circled around. Solrock and Lunatone wanted to do something to attack all the Swellow and Pikachu copies, but they couldn't do anything, as Tate and Liza were too busy thinking of an attack to order, and they didn't want to act on their own. Thankfully for Solrock and Lunatone, Tate and Liza eventually came up with a strategy, ordering a Solar Beam from Solrock and an Ice Beam from Lunatone at the same time, to destroy every single one of the Swellow Pikachu duplicates. Being able to do so because they used a Solar Beam and Ice Beam in a circular motion, so it was able to take out the entire circle of duplicates. However, upon getting rid of all the duplicates, Solrock, Lunatone, Tate, and Liza were left confused, as they couldn't see the real Swellow and Pikachu either. It appeared as though they were gone as well. Though this was just part of Ash's strategy, as he had the real ones hide away while the copies took their place. And now that the copies were gone, Ash had Swellow and Pikachu sneak up, flying out of nowhere, to tackle Lunatone and Solrock, leading Tate, Liza, Max, Brock, and May to react in shock, as Tate and Liza at first didn't know what to do, but quickly Tate and Liza came up with an idea, as Solrock and Lunatone were more than aware of Swellow and Pikachu approaching them at this point, and they were ordered to quickly use another Solar Beam and Ice Beam combination, and this Solar Beam and Ice Beam actually hit the real Swellow and Pikachu this time, stopping them in their tracks as they started to plummet towards the ground, with Solrock and Lunatone having done extra damage since they spun around to increase the rapidness of the beams. And since Solrock and Lunatone were spinning when they attacked, this caused Swellow to begin spinning while it was plummeting towards the ground. Though, thankfully, before Swellow could fall to the ground, Swellow was able to recover and regain balance, and flew back up in the air in the nick of time, kicking up a cloud of dust in the process because it was so close to the ground. Tate and Liza somewhat commend Ash for at least trying a surprise attack, but state that it obviously wasn't going to be enough to take the two of them down, and stated that Ash would have to come up with another strategy to beat them, and questioned if he did have another strategy in him, saying that if not, he could always forfeit, but Ash obviously refused, although he did realize that he didn't know what the fuck to even do, so he tried his best to come up with some way to make a comeback in the battle, when he suddenly comes up with a strategy when he notices some cloud formations forming in the sky. He knew this idea was risky though, as it was going to involve his Pokemon taking heavy recoil damage, but he just had to trust his Pokemon's strength. So he told Pikachu to use Thunderbolt, leading Tate and Liza to just smirk, knowing that they could just counter with a light screen again. And Liza orders Lunatone to do just that, but Tate and Liza are then caught off guard, as Ash stated that he was hoping that Lunatone would go for a light screen, as he quickly unveils his true plan, telling Pikachu not to attack Lunatone or Solrock directly with a Thunderbolt, but instead to shoot the Thunderbolt directly at the clouds, shocking Tate and Liza even more. Ash then orders Pikachu and Swellow to fly up into the clouds, and all the electricity that Pikachu fired at the clouds gets reflected back down in a lightning storm right back at Pikachu and Swellow with massive force. Tate and Liza were shocked as to why Ash would willingly harm his Pokemon, since the Thunderbolt was now coming back down at them, but Ash just revealed his plan, telling Pikachu and Swellow to try and store the electricity up. So Pikachu tried to do this, absorbing the electricity, and Tate and Liza admitted that this did kind of make sense, how Pikachu was able to absorb its own electricity, being an electric type, but they didn't understand how Swellow could potentially absorb it, and Tate and Liza assumed that even if Pikachu would still be standing, Swellow would be done. So Tate, Liza, Ash, May, Brock, and Max, and Rachel watched in anticipation until the lightning suddenly stopped, and Swellow and Pikachu emerged from the clouds, now supercharged with electricity, both of them, and they were also both glimmering gold from the sheer amount of electricity. Yeah, that's right, we have golden Pikachu and Swellow now, leading Tate to remark that Ash had used Thunderbolt as an armor somehow, as now this gold coating was like a super hard metal armor coating somehow. And don't question it, this is bullshit, like, even I have to admit this is bullshit, the anime writers probably admit this is bullshit, this is just a bullshit anime moment. As everyone watches this bullshit in shock, including Ash, as even he didn't expect the Thunder Armor thing to work so well, Ash ordered his now golden Pokemon to attack, so Swellow raced towards Solrock and Lunatone at full speed, with Pikachu still clung to its back, and Pikachu and Swellow were ready to go in for a quick attack together. Although Tate quickly ordered Solrock to fire a Solar Beam at Swellow. Swellow and Pikachu were in fact hit pretty hard by this attack, and a large explosion occurred, but Swellow simply burst through the thick black smoke created by the explosion like nothing happened, because the armor had completely shielded it from any damage. Shocking Tate and Liza, as Swellow just continues to go in with its quick attack with Pikachu still, although Lunatone tried to block the attack by using a light screen, but Swellow and Pikachu's armor was so goddamn powerful that it was able to just break through the light screen and hit Lunatone with both the light screen and a quick attack, causing Lunatone to go flying back as Tate and Liza stare at the scene, dumbfounded. Brock then mentions to Max and May that Ash's Pokemon appeared to be overcharged from the electrical storm, and Ash was using it to his advantage. Basically, Rocket finally realized what we already knew. Pikachu then jumps off of Swellow, still shining with a golden coat, and uses an Iron Tail on Solrock, causing Solrock to wince in pain as it flies back to where Lunatone was. And Swellow then does a flip midair and pivots to use Aerial Ace on Lunatone. And the Aerial Ace hits Lunatone so hard that black smoke fills the sky. But Swellow simply emerges from the smoke seconds later. As he and Pikachu turn back to normal, their golden powers fading. Inside the smoke, Lunatone had been hit extremely hard, and Solrock had as well. So when the smoke eventually cleared away, Lunatone and Solrock were revealed to have fallen down to the ground, fainted, meaning that Ash had won the battle, and Rachel officially declared Ash, along with his Swellow and Pikachu, the winner. And Ash begins to cheer at this. May, Max, and Brock cheer as well, excited to see that Ash had won, and they exclaim that Swellow and Pikachu had made the perfect team as they congratulate Ash. Pikachu and Swellow then fly down towards Ash, and Ash sees that they were no longer covered in a golden coat, but were still sparkling with a bit of electricity, as it hadn't entirely washed away yet. Ash then thanked Pikachu and Swellow for all their help and congratulated them on the win as he hugged his two Pokemon and was immediately electrocuted by the remaining electricity on both Pikachu and Swellow. Ash realizes his mistake, which was hugging Pikachu and Swellow just before succumbing to the electricity's paralysis as he falls to the ground, causing Pikachu and Swellow to laugh at how dumb their trainer could be sometimes, even though they loved him. Ash and the gang, Tate and Liza, then go in front of the gym, along with Rachel, and Tate and Liza thank Ash for the great match and compliment him on how well he thought of a winning combination, and Ash compliments their tag team skills as well. Although Tate and Liza humble themselves, saying compared to Ash, they still had to work on their combinations, but they had learned a lot, and one of the things they had learned was that there were many things in battle that even they still had to perfect, even as a team. Although Ash tells them to not get too down on themselves, making them remember that they nearly defeated him in this gym battle, so they were kind of even. Brock states that it was clear Tate and Liza did in fact have good combination attacks, and they didn't have to get that much better, while May stated that it was 100% certain why Tate and Liza were gym leaders. They were definitely strong enough, and Max, Brock, and May all commented that with some more training, Tate and Liza would become an even better team, even though they were already really awesome. Tate and Liza thank Ash and the gang for all their compliments, although Tate revealed a case that he had been holding and opened it up, pulling out the Mind Badge, Ash's reward for beating his 7th Hoenn gym battle. Ash happily takes the badge, bragging about it a little bit as he holds it up for all of his friends to see, and does a victory pose with both Pikachu and Swellow. And the episode then ends with Ash still holding his new Mind Badge up as he says goodbye to Tate, Liza, and Rachel, and Ash and the gang finally leave Moss Deep City.